I welcome you all to the fourth unit of first section of physiology paper. The title of today's presentation is Structure and Function of Lungs. So when you talk about the structure of lungs, so the lungs is going to play a vital role for the respiration process. So whenever we are talking about lungs, first we should know about the respiratory system, because the respiratory system is going to be contains this particular organ, lungs. So we should know about respiratory system. So respiration means what? It is nothing but inhalation and exhalation, or inspiration or expiration. So combination of both this inspiration and expiration reactions are known as respiration. The components which are involved in respirations are called as a respiratory system. So the respiration means utilization of oxygen in the metabolism of organic molecules by cells, which are known as the cellular respiration. The exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between an organism and external environment is called as a pulmonary physiology respiration or pulmonary respiration. So there are about two types of respirations. So whenever you talk about physiological respiration or pulmonary respiration, it is what the respiration which are going to discussed in physiology. Not the cellular respiration, which are going to usually discussed in the case of intermediate metabolism, metabolic paper. So in a human being, we have about two lungs which are present in the left side as well as and right side. Two lobes. It is further divided into different lobes. So we have two different lungs, and the lungs again further divided into different lobes. The respiration process is going to contain two events. One is known as inspiration, another one is known as an expiration. So inspiration means is the movement of air from external environment through the airways into the alveoli during breathing. Expiration means is an air movement in the opposite direction, that is from external. Exhalation means what? From internal to external. That is what it means, an opposite direction. Combination of both inspiration and expiration or inhalation and exhalation is known as the respiratory cycle. In a healthy adult at a resting state, he took about 4 liters of fresh air and leaves the alveoli per minute. Similarly, there are about 5 liters of blood that flows through this particular lungs. When you are doing exercise or vigorous functions, work, at the time, the amount of blood flow is going to increase around 20-fold. That is, the air flow to the lungs is increased around 20-fold, whereas the blood flow to the lungs is increased around 5 to 6-fold. So what? So 5 liter blood, now it is 6 times. So it is going to be a 30 liter blood will come per minute to the lungs when you are doing an exercise, vigorous exercise. Similarly, 4 liter air comes to the lungs when you are in the rest condition. If it increases 20-fold, think about 20 into 4, it is going to be 80 liter air and 30 liter blood will comes to the lungs when you are doing a vigorous exercise. So that much amount of gases, that much amount of the oxygen is exchanged between lungs and the blood when you are doing an exercise. That's why everybody is saying that we should do an exercise. So now after seeing this introduction about the respiration, now we will move on to the structure of lungs. If you see the lungs starts from nasal cavity. Then it goes down pharynx. Through this pharynx, the mouth is also going to be attached. The opening of the mouth is also attached with this pharynx. Then the pharynx continues and then it gets divided into two components. One is the larynx, the other one is known as the pharynx. So you have two divisions of pharynx. Another one is the larynx. Then the digestive tract, which usually continues as eosinophagous. And in the case of larynx, it is going to be the start of respiratory system, that is known as the trachea. So after this larynx only, the respiratory tract is going to present separately. So above this, both respiratory tract as well as the digestive tract will share. They are the same openings. So once after this larynx, the respiratory tract is going to separately enter into the other component, which is known as the tracheae. Okay, so then the tracheae divides into left and right tracheae, which is named as bronchus. Left branches and right branches. Both the left and right branches goes to left lung and right lung. So right bronchus goes to right lung and left bronchus goes to left lung. Okay, then the lungs are, since it contains different lobules, the bronchus is also again divided into different branches. So when you divide this particular bronchus, okay, so the bronchus is going to be divided into a bronchioles. Okay, then the bronchioles again divided into terminal bronchioles. So now the terminal bronchioles reaches all the component of the lungs, that is the lobes of the lungs, and this particular regions from the trachea to this terminal bronchioles is called as the conducting zone. Then after reaching this particular lobes, the bronchiole is converted into a respiratory bronchioles. So these are the regions where the respiration is going to start. The exchange of gas is going to take place between the inhaled air and the blood which is present in the body. Okay, so this region is known as the respiratory zone, and the bronchiole is known as the respiratory bronchiole. And then this respiratory bronchiole is further simplified into alveolar ducts, and then it ends at the alveolar sac. So alveolar sac is the terminal component of this lung, structure of lung. So the structure of lung starts from the nostril and then it is going to end at the alveolar sac. So that is the end region of lung passage. Okay, so the air can reach from the nose to the alveolar sac. So this respiratory bronchiole, alveolar ducts and alveolar sacs, they contribute respiratory zone. Bronchus, bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, they contribute the conducting zone. So if you see the structure of lungs, you can see that the lung starts from nasal cavity and then it goes to pharynx, and then they are divided into eosinophagus and larynx. Then the larynx continued as a trachea, then trachea is divided into right and left main bronchus, and then this bronchus is again further divided into bronchioles. Then the bronchioles, once it reaches all the lung lobes, it is converted into a terminal bronchiole. Then after this terminal bronchiole, we have a respiratory bronchiole. Why this is called as a respiratory bronchiole? Because this is where the bronchioles are surrounded by the capillaries. The capillaries are formed by the network of respiratory vein and arteries. Okay, then the respiratory bronchiole is converted into a alveolar ducts and then it ends in alveolar sac. So this is the place, that is the alveolar sac is the place where actually the respiration is going to occur. So this diagram, the diagram what you are seeing in the slide is going to clearly indicates that the respiratory tract is how it is going to be clubbed with. The lung is not only present lung tissue, it is going to contain a connective tissue, smooth muscle is there, which is going to plays a vital role for the respiratory process, that is exhalation and inhalation, that is contraction and relaxation of the lungs are all achieved with the help of this type of muscles. And then the exchange of oxygen between the blood and external environment air is all achieved with the help of this capillary system, which is going to surround this alveoli sac. So that is how the lungs is going to play a vital role. So now we will see the structure of an alveoli sac. So before going to see the alveolar sac structure, that diagram indicates that how many times the tract from the trachea to the alveolar sac they gets divided, branched. You can see the trachea is a single one, then it gets converted into a 2 bronchi, and then it is divided into 4 and 8 bronchi. Then it is divided into 16 bronchioles. Then the 16 bronchioles is almost ended as a terminal bronchiole at around 6 into 10 power 4. You think 10 power 4 means what? 40. So if you add 40, it's going to be a 60,000 branches at the level of bronchioles. If you go to respiratory bronchiole stage, then this 60,000 is going to be increased as a 5 lakh. Then if you go to alveolar sac, you can see the number of alveolar sac is going to be around 8 lakh. 80 lakh, not even 8, it's going to be 80 lakh time number of sacs you are going to have in your body. Okay, so that is how the number of branches. So the trachea is 1, but it is going to be divided into lakh times. It is going to be end in the alveolar sac as a 10 lakh times it gets divided into a alveolar sac. So when you see this alveolar sac, this is what the diagram of alveolar sac. You can see this respiratory bronchiole. It is going to be divided into a alveoli ducts, and then you have a alveolar sac. The alveolar sac is surrounded by different cells, So there are about mainly 2 type of cells are going to presented in this alveolar sac. One is going to be a normal type 1 epithelial cell, which is going to be a normal alveoli cell, which is going to be placed a lining of the alveoli. Then another one we have a type 2 epithelial cell, and this type 2 cell is a specialized cell. Why? Because this is the cell which is going to provide the component which is known as the lung surfactant. This lung surfactant is actually prevents the collapsing of the lungs. It allows the lungs always to expand and condense and expand. Condense and expand reactions are achieved only with the help of this lung surfactant. So this lung surfactant, which actually reduces the surface tension. Okay, so this is achieved with the help of this type 2 cell which is present in the alveoli sac. Okay, so the alveoli sac, you can see the air and the capillaries will have only a less than a single cell thickness, the space between the blood vessel, that is the blood, and the air. So the distance between the division between the air region as well as the blood vessel is going to be a less than 1 cell thickness. So that is why there is a possibility of the air exchange can be possible even through diffusion methods. The exchange of air is going to be easily possible by this type of complicated structure of alveoli sac, which is having very less than a single cell thick divisions between the sac, that is the environmental air, and the blood. Okay, so that is how the air can be easily exchanged between the lungs and the blood. Okay, so the minute capillaries actually plays a vital role for the gaseous exchange. And then in the coming sections we will see how this gaseous exchange is possible, what are the laws which are essential for the exchange of this gas is possible, and what are the mechanisms, what are the components which are going to play a vital role in the gaseous exchange. For example, partial pressure. For example, the role of hemoglobin. Okay, so that is how we are going to see in the later part of this unit. We are going to discuss about how the gas is going to be exchanged in this alveoli sac. But as of now, as a structure of lungs, we saw here, that is the lung sac, the alveoli sac is going to be filled with air, and which can be exchanged between the blood vessels, which has very less than a single cell thickness. So that is how the gases can be easily exchanged between the environment and the lungs. Then when you come to the structure of lungs, the overview of the function of the lungs can be explained with this say about 5-step explanation. First, we are going to take the atmospheric air into lungs. Once the air comes to the lungs, the gaseous exchange is going to be occurs between the atmospheric air and the blood. So this is known as gas exchange. The intake of air is known as ventilation, and then exchange of inhalation and exhalation. So both the processes are called as ventilation. Then once the gas comes to the lungs, the gas reaches the blood through the process of gaseous exchange. Once the oxygen taken up by the blood and the carbon dioxide is released into the lungs, okay, then the blood go through our body, through the heart, it supplies blood to the tissue. So when the blood, oxygenated blood reaches the heart, so that is known as actually gaseous exchange. gas is going to transfer from the lungs to the heart, then the heart to the tissue. So gas is going to be transported. Once the blood reaches the tissue, again the gas oxygen moves from the blood to the cells, and then carbon dioxide moves from the cells to the blood. Then the blood carries the carbon dioxide to the lungs, and in the lungs the carbon dioxide moves away from blood to the lungs, and from the lungs it goes to the atmosphere. So this is how the ventilation, gaseous exchange, gaseous transport, again gaseous exchange. And then why the cells actually require this type of oxygen? Because it has to carry out the cellular respiration. In physiology we are studying about the organism respiration, the pulmonary respiration we are discussing. Okay, but why the cell required the oxygen? It has to undergo a respiratory process for the metabolic reactions, for energy production. For the purpose it requires the oxygen. So that is where the cellular respiration means. The cells takes up oxygen and it releases carbon dioxide. Then the carbon dioxide goes through the blood and it comes to the lungs. Then it is released to the lungs. From the lungs the gas is exhaled. It goes out of lungs to the environment. So this is how we are taking up oxygen and we are releasing carbon dioxide. So these two processes, exhalation and inhalation, are collectively known as respiration. So this is how the lungs functions. Mechanical function of the lungs. Like a heart, which is going to be a pumping station of a blood. So the lung is also a place where the gas is exchanged. Mainly oxygen is given to the body and carbon dioxide is taken away from the body to the atmosphere. The same type of reaction is actually occurs in the plants, but in plants it is known as the photorespiration. And in the case of photosynthesis, the reverse is occurs. That is, the plants takes up carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. So that process is known as the photosynthesis. But the reactions which takes the intake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide is also occurs in plants. That process is known as photorespiration. When the plants are doing the same type of respiratory reaction as we do, then it is known as the photorespiration. Then in human it is called as pulmonary respiration. Because cells can also take up oxygen and releases carbon dioxide, that is known as cellular respiration. So whenever you talk about physiology, we are talking about respiration means it's a pulmonary respiration. We are talking about the lungs. Okay, then similarly we also saw that the function of the lungs can be seen in a two different phases. One is known as the conducting zone, another one is known as the respiratory zone. So now we will see the functions. What are the functions which occurs in the conducting zone? And what are all the functions which occurs in the respiratory zone? So if we see the conducting zone is actually provides a low resistant pathway for airflow. Resistant is physiologically regulated by changes in contraction of bronchiolar smooth muscle and by physical forces acting upon the airway. Okay, so it is going to be allows the air can be easily flow to the lungs. It defends against microbes, toxic chemicals and other foreign matter. Cilia, mucus and macrophages perform this function. So they are also going to defend body from the microbes. So that defending reaction is also occurs in the region of conducting zone. And then this conducting zone is actually changes the moisture nature of the air as well as the temperature of the air. Because our body will contain 37 degrees Celsius. So when the air reaches our blood, so before reaching that blood, it is going to be changed. The temperature of the air, atmospheric air, is converted into the temperature of our own body temperature. Okay, so that change also occurs in the conducting zone. Then the conducting zone plays a sound production. That is what vocal cord. We are saying that larynx. Okay, so that plays a vital role. So with the air only we are able to talk. If the respiration is not functioning well, if the larynx is not functioning well, then we are unable to talk. You can't hear what I am talking. So that is how this conducting zone plays a vital role. So it is going to provide low air resistance to the airflow so that the air can easily go inside as well as comes out of it, and it is going to defend ourselves from the microbes, and it also warms, it changes the temperature of the air. Then the other part of the function, that is known as the respiratory system. It is known as the respiratory zone, which is going to provide oxygen to the body. It removes carbon dioxide from the body, and then it regulates the pH. So the blood pH is actually regulated by this type of lungs. And then the variation in the speech. Variation in the speech is also achieved by the help of this particular respiratory system. And then it also provides defense. And then the arterial concentration of chemical messengers, removing some from pulmonary capillary blood and producing and adding to others to this blood. So apart from this oxygen, the other components also can be exchanged with the help of this respiration process. And then it traps and dissolves blood clots arising from the systemic veins such as those in legs. So even you can see that the respiratory system is going to dissolve the blood clots which is going to be arised from the vein. So this is the new type of function you can hear from this. So that is how the respiratory system plays a vital role. Okay, so not only it is going to exchange oxygen, it releases carbon dioxide. In addition to that, it maintains pH. It is responsible for our speech. It can also protect us from microbes, and then it dissolves the clotted blood. And then it also changes the, you can see that those people who are affected by, say, ketoacidosis, or those people who are having a diabetes mellitus, you can smell the acetone from their breathing. So the occurrence of certain chemicals which is found to be toxic to our body, so they can be released also through the lungs. So the lungs is going to be used for the removal of certain volatile compounds from our blood, which can be easily released through this particular respiratory phenomena. So not only the oxygen, not only the carbon dioxide, so even some of the volatile compounds can be released through this particular respiratory tract from the blood. So that is how the respiratory zone is going to play a vital role in the respiration, apart from the conducting zone. Okay, so this is how the respiratory system is going to function. So if anybody have any questions related with the structure of lungs and functions of lungs, you can contact me either through mail or through phone through 9865866168 and sivabio@gmail.com. For the presentation of this particular structure of lungs, the books like Canon Review of Medical Physiology and Guyton, Hall Textbook of Medical Physiology, Wander's Human Physiology, Color Atlas of Physiology, and Fox Human Physiology, and Essential of Medical Physiology books are utilized for the preparation of this presentation. So you can also refer these books to get the knowledge about the structure of lungs and function of the lungs. Okay, so with these few words, I would like to conclude the presentation on structure and function of lungs. Okay, so thank you very much for your listening.